saying? What? What's that sound? Where? It's aliens and they're living in your town. Damn. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.
Good morning, weirdos. How's everybody doing out there in Weirdo Land? This is live from my living room. How the hell is everyone doing?
I'm good. Sweating my ass off, working on a boat, doing manual labor.
Yeah, that's right. Becky
Kicking
got
my
a
ass
boat.
in the sun. It's an old sailboat.
You're like restoring it, right?
Pain in my ass. Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool. I have a boat too. I have a G.I. Joe toy boat right up there. It's made of all plastic, vintage. Not as fancy as yours.
They're probably just as seaworthy at this point.
Vicky, how are you feeling?
I feel so much better. So much better. I mean, that first week of school, those little germ monsters got me.
That's
and they've taken down like most of my department.
Well, so Jen as well, first week back at school, I think she just got nabbed. So she's starting to develop a little bit of a sore throat cough type thing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Well, let's just jump right into it, my friends. There's a lot to talk about. Now, here's an email, Vicky, from Janet from New Hampshire. Right off the bat, let's get into some ghost stuff.
Okay.
Is this a ghost or am I being paranoid? This is what Janet has to say. I caught what looked to be a ghost on my baby monitor. It was hovered over my 2-month-old doesn't make sense, does it? 2-month-old baby?
I get the
2
picture.
months?
Maybe it's 2 months old. Yeah.
2-month-old? Okay. You can tie it off kids. I was so taken back when I saw in real time it was this black figure like a shadow person. When I went back to watch the footage, it was gone. I even saw at one point it look at my baby and then it move its head. He was wearing a hat as well. My husband thinks I'm crazy. Maybe I am. Janet from New Hampshire.
So when she went back to go look at it again,
On
it
the
was
footage,
not there.
the footage, it was gone, but she saw it in real time.
Okay, so she saw it with her eyes, but it wasn't on the footage.
Yes, when she went back to see it.
Right. I mean, it sounds like it could actually be something.
Is that common to where something could be filmed or photographed and it wouldn't show the apparition?
It's possible. You know, the most interesting phenomena that we've come across on an investigation, we have been someplace where we've heard a super loud noise, like a bang, like an entire shelf fell or something like that. When we go back to review the audio, that sound is not there.
All right.
And it was loud, and every single investigator would have witnessed the sound, but it is nowhere on anybody's recorder.
The skeptic would say, okay, it didn't pick it up. It wasn't the
Or it
microphone.
didn't
These
happen.
recorders will pick up a grasshopper 3 houses down taking a pee on a leaf.
That's
So-
a bold claim. I would like
It
to
is.
try that out.
Okay. All right. We'll set that up.
But the whole shadow people, that's something that I feel like I have seen before. Is that different than an actual ghost, or is that a ghost, or is that a demon?
There's a lot of controversy in the field as to what a shadow figure is. Some people think that it is just a human spirit that doesn't have enough energy to form itself to be able to see features. Some people believe that shadow people are completely different entities. Some people have even claimed that they're possibly aliens.
What?
All right.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of theories out there about shadow people.
I want to get to something maybe a little bit later. I went on a psychic rant yesterday on our podcast, and then some people are calling me out, and they're like, oh, I want to get Vicky's opinion about that. I guess I'll get into it right now. Someone asked, we were talking about psychics, and Virginia has a psychic that she uses, and she was so adamant about her guy, and and I get that because she really believes in her guy. But with all of that said, I came to the conclusion saying, yeah, but even with Vicky or with her guy, I go, nobody knows what's really going on. They may have a theory, they may have a philosophy. Do I believe Vicky? Yes. Do I believe in what you're talking about? Of course, I believe in some psychic abilities. But at the end of the day, nobody knows what the hell's going on out there. And I stand by those words. We're all just humans.
You have heard me say more than once, whenever you hear somebody make a declarative, absolutely written in stone statement about the paranormal, no, none of it is written in stone. And, they asked me the other night on the interview, they said, are you right 100% of the time? And I said, no. I said, nobody's right. I said, you need to be aware of the psychic who pretends to be correct 100% of the time. We're human beings. Nothing is 100% an absolute.
Agreed.
So that said, for like someone that is known as the skeptic on the show, what would you say is the best advice, you, Vicky, and Jaybird, in terms of someone receiving advice, having that knowledge that it's never 100%, admittingly. So should you take everything with a grain of salt? How much should you incorporate that advice or reading into your life? Like what's...
Right.
But before you answer, to kind of piggyback what he's saying, I hear what you're saying, and there are people who really do make life decisions based on everything their psychic says, like a therapist. And I don't think therapists are 100%.
Or even the horoscopes in the paper, like
Yeah.
they're all on a sliding scale, right? And and then you have some legitimate, like well-respected psychics, and then you have horoscopes in the newspaper, and like some people take it with a grain of salt. Some people change their life direction based on it. So,
and and anybody who is listening out there who's had a reading by me, I always say, now this is just what I see. Take whatever I say with a grain of salt. I'm not pretending like I know anything. I'm just telling you based on what I'm being shown. This is my opinion. And I've had people who have almost become dependent on me, and I actually cut them off. Even though they're regular customers, quote unquote customers,
they got hooked.
Well, they literally
they got hooked on your advice.
They do, and it gets to the point where it's too much, and I stop answering. I say, I'm sorry, I can't read for you anymore, because they become dependent, and they are actually following what I say, and I don't want to be responsible for that. I'm just here to give you maybe a little one perspective on something. But
would I be off to say that if you get a psychic reading, you should do two things? You should listen to what they say, and then if you do agree with it, also match it up with your gut instinct.
absolutely,
If it's really feeling off of your gut,
right.
I keep ignoring Denny's over here.
No, that's fine.
We'll get to you.
Audience, and I love it.
But yeah, I think you have to, with anything in life,
Right.
whether it's a relationship or just a move you make in business, you follow your gut.
And a little bit of common sense, which we were talking about this yesterday at work. Common sense isn't as common as we think it is. I'm going to start calling it uncommon sense. Like, for example, I know someone who went to a psychic, and they spent a lot of money. And then at some point, the psychic said, well, your problems are centered around this jewelry, and it's actually evil. And I think you need to put it in this cloth bag, and you need to go out to the beach, and you need to dig into the sand, and this is where you're going to do that, and you're going to bury that jewelry, and that's going to get all that bad energy away. That's when your common sense should kick in and say, this person's getting ready to steal, and this person was taken for about $200,000
Wow.
by following this advice that really common sense should have told them doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't go bury my jewelry on a beach.
Sometimes when it comes to matters of the heart, common sense does go bye-bye, especially if it's someone you're into, relationships. I mean, Denny, I'm sure you've done some stupid shit because of matters of the heart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's all stupid shit, I think, comes from matters of the heart.
there's nothing like emotions and sex to muddy the waters of judgment, right?
Sex is such I think we talked about last week. It's such a powerful just thing that is in us that it makes people insane.
Well, it makes a large component of what we are.
It is. It's really a big part of our makeup to want to mate, want to reproduce, want to have sex. You're right. It's like the basic need almost of hunger. Hunger's more because you have to do it every day, 3 times a day. But
which is weird to me how uneducated everybody is about it, because they almost hide it away. Everything's kind of like put behind closed doors about sex until you hit 18. Then they're like, go fuck everyone.
It's like
it's almost like
you're right.
You get no instructions up until the point you just are set out.
It's kind of like the philosophy of drinking. Like in Europe, like a kid can have a glass of wine with his parents at 16. It becomes a normal thing, and supposedly studies show there's less like binge drinking. Where in the United States, our culture was like, oh, nothing, zero, zip, and then someone go to college and they die of alcohol poisoning. And they just
stimulus overload.
It's just like a binge of floodgates of all at once.
We're taught about sex, but to your point, Denny, you're right. It's almost like we don't give it the credit it deserves on the powerful. Now, I'm not talking about people who are sex addicts. I'm just talking about your regular person who just has urges. Think about everything you do
it's
in
taught
your
to you
life.
very clinically, like in no fun, no actual description of it. It's taught to you very medically.
Well, I mean, people join bands because they want to attract people. A lot of stuff you do in this world is because you're trying to.
Every day.
It's
everything.
It's
Every
that
day.
urge. It's that.
Everything we buy, the way we
Every day.
carry ourselves,
That's what
all
mar-
of that's to attract a
That's what
mate.
It's a
marketers do.
power.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, which is why it's weird that it's so taboo for so long.
But
you
you-
think that you would embrace the sexuality.
But you just said something about, we're not talking about sex addiction. I think what people need to understand, though, that fine line between what you're talking about, the regular urges and stuff, and then it very quickly turns into an addiction. I know a person who, married, 3 kids, great job. He's now homeless, sitting in jail, all because he started getting hookers.
But was
Yeah.
that
And it turned into this huge addiction.
was that something that was
He was
that-
predisposed
Was he
to-
predisposed to? Yeah, exactly. Was this something?
Psychologically, because I mean, here's what's weird. So with the amount of porn that's out there, pornography on the internet, they're saying that a lot of people now are becoming addicted to porn more so than they are being addicted to sex.
That's true.
They're getting more addicted to watching it than they are actually performing it.
Yep.
And so is that something we've created just because it is now a thing that's out there? Back in the day, you couldn't get porn so readily. Or if you did, you were considered a pervert, or you had to do it under the shade of the moon.
The fact that it's so easily available, it completely makes everybody. I think you would argue you've seen a spike in just fetishes alone because of porn. People are watching shit all the time, stuff they never in a million years would have watched. It's a click of a button now. We've never lived in a time like that until the last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah. I think it's compounding factors. It's that it's more readily available. People are in culture, I think, a little bit more allowed to be more open about it.
That's a great point.
And I had a third one, but
Your third point sucks.
but I think people are more open-minded now, and they're more able to be more honest about it. And with technology was the other thing I was going to say, because now, how are you going to get that out, right? Because there's porn. Yeah, people could be more open, but now you can go, if you're into furries, like we talked about in one of the podcasts, now you can go in a chat room
And find
other furries. Where if you were in the early 1900s and you were a furry, you're probably just going to keep that to yourself your whole life, right?
Until you came across somebody.
Totally.
There's no beer house where you can just go meet with
Well,
other furries.
not only is it that you're communicating on the internet about being a furry, you're finding like-minded people.
Exactly.
With the technology, it was just never there.
Right.
And to your point again with the sex thing mixed with the technology, this is uncharted territory, and we're all just kind of flying by, and we're seeing the results of it.
And I've been probably overly candid on the podcast about sexting being a thing, and I'm on the cusp of a millennial. I'm older, right? So I can only imagine the kids coming into texting and porn and everything now. But
Next level.
sexting to me almost becomes a sapiosexual, more of an intellectual to get engaged with porn, right? Because porn, you're just kind of an observer. With sexting, it's kind of like reading those
It's like choose your own adventure book.
Right, exactly. It's like reading those sex stories that they used to put in Penthouse or Playboys with those letters that were fake, but they were written by a professional writer. It's like
Weirdly, that's getting big now.
Right?
The people reading porn.
people reading about it, and then it's like a romance novel.
That's what I'm saying.
Girls got so into 50 Shades of Grey,
Totally.
so into it. It was like a
It's-
world
it's
phenomenon.
commercial.
It's weird that you say the reading thing because I have to do a lot of prep for the show, and you have to read through Reddit and all this kind of stuff. And man, there's some very talented writers on Reddit. I was
They write.
I was reading this one story, and I'm not kidding you. I was like getting turned on more than if it was porn.
So then I guess I asked, does that bring us back to, as people, now that, so we say porn's readily available, you also have drugs readily available, alcohol readily available, food readily available. We have all these things. Should we be taught more self-control
Yes.
as humans, more so than anything else? Because that's something we're always going to struggle with.
I think everybody needs somebody to keep you in check.
Yeah,
I do.
for sure.
I mean, I'm a single person and I live alone. I don't have many people keeping me in check other than my dog Chewy. He does a great job, but he can only do so much. You need people to keep you in check sometimes. I think that's important.
Or learning internally to keep yourself in check.
That's a
That's
great
a tough
point.
one.
There's a bunch of psychological studies that is, if it's restricted, do people seek it out more?
For sure.
Like you look in Amsterdam, they don't have drug problems like we have in the United States because it's there, it's moderated, the government
It's governmentalized.
is checking on it. There's no bad heroin. It's all like there's pot shops and
Yeah.
smoke shops and everything like that. Where psychologically, and same thing we were talking about alcohol. If sex was just available for it was just kind of like in the 60s, I think people become less. They're like, all right, I'm kind of over it now.
Yeah,
or like
absolutely.
you kind of fall back into that balance. I think.
Well, it
right?
becomes a normal thing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Vicky? If we legalized all drugs, does that help the problem or does it increase it?
I think, again, like what Ryan was saying, it would be, I think more people would participate if we knew the quality of the drug. Like we knew that the pot wasn't mixed with this, that, and the other that's going to hurt. So I think you have to have that in place too.
And if they mix them, hey.
I mean,
that sounds like such a dare
but I can use
promo.
I can
Don't
use
smoke the weed, kid. There's rat poison in it.
I mean, I can use myself as an example. We talked about this like a couple weeks ago. I've never smoked pot.
Yeah.
And if it became legal, yes, I would smoke pot.
Well,
Would it?
all right.
Would it become a habit? I don't know. I've never done it. You know what I mean? So for me, making it legal, I might venture into some of the lower level things, but not, intense stuff. So
Absolutely.
I can just speak
Absolutely.
for myself.
No one thinks you're going to go on this ecstasy run.
Right.
And you're going to be raving.
But I don't give that persona off to you.
I don't see you raving.
Bump into Vicky at Burning Man next year.
Yeah, she goes to Ultra.
Yeah.
Ultra, there you go.
Let's see here. We got some more emails. We got a lot of good emails this week. Keep sending them, please. This one is. Let me find it. Okay. Can pets become possessed? I honestly feel like my cat had been taken over by a demon a month ago. I did a seance about 5 weeks ago at my place. Then my cat turned into the biggest asshole. He tries to bite everyone now. Even his eyes seem to have turned a different shade of color. What can I do if he really is possessed? Laura from Fort Lauderdale. And then she PS, seriously, can animals become possessed?
I believe they can be. They're just a vehicle. We've talked about haunted objects. We've talked about haunted dolls, where an entity has taken over and has used that doll to manipulate people. So if you can do it with an inanimate object, certainly you can do it with a living creature, like an animal.
Technically, couldn't a spirit take over a manatee? Couldn't there be a possessed manatee if we're going to be, why is it just cats?
Well, first of all, how many times do you run into a manatee? So possessing a manatee is not going to give you, a lot of performance for your buck there.
I'm
sure in the
I'm
history-
a fantasy.
The history of life, I'm sure one manatee has been possessed and did something evil.
That's my point. If a cat can be possessed, why does the
Well,
ghost
like I
give
said,
a shit?
a demon or a ghost, they're going to use something that you're going to come in contact with. Just look at the old legends, you go way back with the witches and their familiars. It was usually a cat or a bird or something that they were close to. And supposedly they could manipulate, and they had almost like a possessive type situation with that.
So basically, ghosts are thirsty bitches. They want attention. Look at me, look at me.
Yeah. Well, if you were basically invisible to most people and you're trying to get your message across, wouldn't you do anything you could to try to get that message across?
Just like in the movie Ghost,
Yeah.
which we all should watch collectively as a group together. Get some snacks. Get weird with it.
Recreate some
I haven't
scenes.
seen that movie in forever.
I would love to recreate the pottery scene with Beckett.
We can recreate the scene where the ghost drag the guy off.
Oh, hilarious.
Oh, here's another email. Luke from Wellington says, do you guys believe that you should always be honest about everything? I like certain things done to me, but I'm embarrassed to tell my girlfriend. I like to be humiliated during sex. I want her to tell me I have a small penis and that I'm worthless. I know this sounds weird, but that kind of behavior really gets me off. I want to be honest with her, but I think she's going to think I'm a freak if I tell her any of this. Luke from Wellington, and no, that's not my real name or the city I live in.
100% you need to be honest. Why would you want to be with a girl that you couldn't let your freak flag fly?
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I know it's tough to talk about the things that you like, but wouldn't you want to? Don't you want to live your authentic life?
100%. If it's not hurting anyone, and
for sure,
including yourself, and in terms of some psychological thing. But I think outside of that, you should be totally honest and with those kind of things with your partner.
So, do you think there's people listening right now to the podcast, or eventually listen to the podcast, that they are in a relationship, probably married, and they want to do something in the bedroom, or they have a secret that they're not living. They're lying to everybody. They're wearing that mask. Do you think that's a lot of people? Vicky, you're raising your hand. Mm-hmm. Are you in a relationship like that?
Well, I'm just saying I've never had a relationship where I felt I could be 1,000% honest when it came to sex.
Really?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it just sex, or is it other things in the relationship?
Oh, I'm fine with everything else.
Meh.
But I don't think I've ever been with anybody because I thought my children's father, I thought it was that way. And in the very beginning, I said some things, and then anytime we'd have a fight, somehow magically he was just like a woman. He'd bring it back up, know,
And it scarred you.
throw it back at me. And so then I learned, okay, everything that's going to stay in my head now, I'm not going to express it.
Yeah, it's weird when someone says something
Yeah.
that rattles you, even if they didn't mean it.
Right.
Maybe they mean. I'm not saying that he did or he didn't, but it is weird when you say something to somebody, you think it's over in the moment, but I mean that's what shapes people's personalities sometimes.
I actually think you get closer to someone if you're vulnerable, and that allows them to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if that ends up not working out, then they weren't the person for you anyways. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but like I really believe that. And if you can't really be yourself with someone, like what's the point of being someone? You can
Yeah.
be single and have fun.
You only get one shot.
Right?
People are scared to be themselves. It's
tough. It's the toughest thing.
I think we've talked about it before. We all have a stranger inside of us that we don't show anybody.
Billy Joel.
I
That's true.
swear.
Including ourselves sometimes.
I agree. I think the stranger inside of us, I know that sounds very sexual, but I think it scares the fuck out of us. Nobody likes to, admit that they're wrong. No one likes to admit that there's something about their quirks, their personality that may be
Unlikable,
unlikable.
detestable.
Exactly. And that is, people, they don't want to do the work on that. I get it. There's a lot of shit I don't like about myself that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
anytime you express yourself.
I think there's a double standard, though. I think men can be more expressive about those things than women can.
Sex.
I think that men tend to throw it back because they set a different standard for women.
On the same note, though, would you say that it's the same double standard when it comes to women and their feelings and emotions compared to men? I know it's gotten better,
It's gotten better, but yeah,
and I think it's gotten better for
give you
sex
that.
too with women as well.
Yeah, but
But
I
but-
still think that's
There's still an imbalance.
To me, the more vulnerable, open, and weirder the girl is, the better. Like I encourage that. And, I like to.
That's because you're a freak.
you are a freak, Becky.
Tell me your
We all know
desires.
you're a freak.
And if you drink, like I've got, you go out, you bond with the person, you have a bunch of drinks, you get overserved, and like, you share some things.
Fight.
And the first time you guys are intimate, like you're not gonna like throw your full ninja kick
No,
out,
absolutely.
But like, you dip your toe in the water, and there's stepping stones to like, and like by a few months in of an intimate relationship, I think,
Yeah.
you should pretty much trust that person, and certain shots across the bow were well received or not, and
Absolutely.
whether it's going to go there. Yeah.
People are wanting to know when I'm going to be dyeing my hair back to black. That will be today. I'm so sick of this blonde.
Oh,
bullshit.
yeah. I
gotta
think you
see
already
it.
got the dye, too.
It's pretty awful.
That doesn't look bad.
No, it's awful.
I like the contrast.
Yeah, it actually looks cool.
Thanks, guys. I wasn't Facebook fishing. I was answering.
You look tan, too.
Answering a comment that came in. Thanks, Denny's. and I think you're very funny.
Oh, thanks.
With that intro, I think it's time for
Denny's
Random
Facts.
Nice.
I don't think we need a theme song. I kind of like that now.
Yeah, I kind of like the chant, too. It gets me all hyped. For this first fact, so you know how back in the day, probably like I'd say 1910 to 1930, there was a lot of those snake oil salesmen, and people were trying to, I guess there was a kind of a romanticism to the era in the sense that people were trying to find the wonders of the world, go to foreign countries and find their plants and cultivate them into weird new concoctions and stuff.
Magical potions.
Exactly. So there's something kind of like, kind of something bewildering to it, I guess.
Like the Fountain of Youth, Ponce de Leon, like people.
Yeah,
like,
that there could be exotic areas you go, and there's probably hyperbole that came along. People would go to southern Africa and they'd see an elephant. They're like, this creature that's as tall as a building, and then it comes back to the States and people are like, they can't. It
It's
blows
got
their
a
mind.
trunk. It has horns.
Well, so there's a lot of great things that came out of there, like Coca-Cola and all sorts of health elixirs. But there's also some bad things that came out of that era, and this was probably one of the worst ones I found. There was a drink called Radithor on the U.S. markets between 1918 and 1928. That was a radioactive beverage that was supposed to invigorate your body, and it was sold to. And I guess this is kind of how the whole thing came, lobbying for the pharmaceuticals, because people would pitch their concoctions, scientists would pitch their concoctions to different pharmacies locally and across the globe, and to carry their product and help cure ailments. So before there was sanctions and, they had the Drug Administration, people just kind of took their word on it. And this guy found that if you took radon and put it in water for a couple of days, it would start to, kind of glow and stuff, and you could drink it, and it was supposed to help you. Well, so one guy was prescribed to it. The guy he encouraged this drug to be sold by giving kickbacks to pharmacists, which is where I draw the parallel to the lobbying. But anyway, so this one unfortunate soul, Eben Byers, he hurt his arm, and he went to the doctor and asked for a prescription to help his arm get better quicker. So they gave him this drink. Well, unfortunately, after about 3 years of using it, all of his bones and body tissues disintegrated while he was still alive.
Jesus.
To the point where he couldn't even move anymore. So that was just I just thought that was a crazy beverage that was out there.
That reminds me of that one story of that guy that was on the plane. They had to kick him off because he smelled so bad. They found out he was rotting. He had a disease where he was rotting while he was alive, and that's how he got bit by something.
Some bacteria.
But that's what that reminds me of. Keep in mind, if you're playing along at home and keeping score, Vicky, our educator, grades Denny's on his random facts. Vicky, fact number 1, what do you give a grade on that?
I can't go higher than a B.
Wow.
I did like his the prep leading up to it, but
There's a lot of solid research there. It sounded like Mountain Dew, basically, when you're describing it. Like
Yes.
If I had to envision
Which
a drink
Mountain
as
Dew
your...
we learned was they made for whiskey.
Yeah.
As a chaser.
Yeah, you don't have to send me the Mountain Dew link about how it kills people. I get it. I know it's killing. I know soda's terrible. I still am drinking it.
So one of the funny stories was one of the doctors shared was when Eben Byers came in, they did a scan of him. I guess they used an old method where they would tap you on different spots, whatever. Well, anyway, so when they looked in there, he had a bunch of holes in his bones from drinking radiation.
Jeez.
It's like so weird, right? So that's just, I'm glad we have a team that, decides what's good or not.
I saw a documentary last night, real quick, that the EPA has been rolling back all these regulations, everything with that Scott Pruitt guy that left out of all this scandal, and they had these guys. This one guy was in his 30s and he died because he was trying to get like in those products like Goo Off and Gone Goo and stuff like that. They had totally lobbied to take it off. The kid was taking flooring up and just passed out and died. And they've rolled back these regulations. So even sometimes we think in 2019, like we're immune to these kind of things with chemicals and whatever. And we're almost being microdosed in a nefarious way of like plastics and all these things. And I used to be like, oh yeah, like some hippie talk and whatever. But if you listen to these scientists and what all these people are saying, like it's scary.
So it seems like there is a movement against science, though.
It does. It's so freaked out.
It's a weird thing where
because
all these people have gone to school and dedicated their life to this mission.
Absolutely.
And then you've got some fucking 21-year-old on Twitter saying, "Oh, you suck. Yeah, you don't know what the fuck's going on." Because I was like, "What? What's happening?"
Yeah, politics, special interest, all of that. Totally. If it doesn't fit into their path, then you ignore scientists.
Well, so I think deception over the years has caused this movement.
Right.
Just finding out things. So in this case, these doctors were prescribing this drug because they were told that it would help cure these things.
And they didn't know.
And they didn't know because they got it from a scientist or a medical professional in the time who also didn't know.
Yeah. Well, look at big tobacco. There was plenty of science out that said smoking was bad, and it took 20 years for finally everyone to finally, it was the minority of people be like, oh, smoking's bad. Like, oh, I love my cigarettes. I'm not going to stop smoking. And it was like a big ship slowly turning. It wasn't like one day everyone woke up and was smoking back. It took years and years. And now we're at the point where we look back like, yeah, of course it was stupid.
How are we eating ribs in a cloud full of smoke at a restaurant?
Right.
Looking at a restaurant with smoking is so. You'll see old movies with it,
and it's so weird.
Or you'll see old news clippings of a judge is
or
in
a
court.
doctor.
Yes,
a doctor, yeah.
They're smoking.
They used to smoke in schools in the teachers'
in the
room.
airplane. You'd be in a pressurized tube smoking cigarettes to people. It's crazy.
I mean, what the hell were we thinking?
But we're gonna say the same thing about climate change. I mean, I feel like unfortunately it's slow ship to turn as well. But I tell my friends, if you went to an oncologist about cancer and they're like, oh, well, all these oncologists, all your doctors are saying X, Y, and Z to get better, you listen to those people. You wouldn't listen to the guy on Twitter. You wouldn't listen to your buddy next door. You wouldn't listen to the different politicians about your cancer. You listen to the experts. So if 98% of climatologists are saying something, freaking listen.
But then people would be like, well, climatologists, how do I know that they're a legit climatologist?
That is invented just for
That just drives me crazy.
Well, it's like the flat earthers. How do you know that the earth isn't flat. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
No, but how do the astronauts are real? At that point, you can't even argue.
There's an argument
You can't
for
even have
everything.
you can't debate that. You can't even have a fucking debate.
Meanwhile, Earth is dying.
Vicky, what are your thoughts on all this? So, do you think all of this global warming, all of the climate stuff, is this Earth just being Earth and this is the way it is, or are we really effing it up?
I think we're messing it up. I mean, I think to me, it seems the evidence shows that. I mean, over and over again. And even in my little world, I'm older than all of you, I can tell you in Florida, we used to have a winter.
I just went on a rant on the KVJ show. I remember being a little kid in South Florida and it getting colder around Halloween time. You would go
Yeah,
out
like Halloween, you could wear a sweater.
You did. You had a cool Halloween when I was up to probably the age about 11 years of age. Seriously. And then it did start to get hot. And I did notice too, just even walking my dog. I mean, I was always out in the sun playing baseball. The sun just feels like it's different.
It's painful.
It's cutting through my clothes.
Yeah.
I feel it's like a fucking laser.
It feels like you're burning.
I do think one of the advocates' mistakes is they labeled it, branded it global warming, because then the naysayers could say, oh, look, this is a really cold winter. We had record snowfall in Colorado, and they can use and cherry pick those things, where if you listen to a climatologist, like, listen, it's extreme in weather patterns. You know, look at the temperature of the oceans. Look at the carbon parts per million. These aren't subjective things. These are measurable things. Like, it's been the highest ever since the 1950s in the history of the world.
But here's the thing, though, and this is where people are kind of they're a little skeptic. Anytime you have tragedy coming or doom and gloom, it's an opportunity to make money, and it's also an opportunity to jump the political ladder. It is. You can use fear to get money out of people and to, get to a certain point in your career. And I think that's the one thing.
Once they use it as a platform,
yes,
it starts turning people off immediately.
I 100% agree with that, but I go back to the consensus overwhelming. It's not like it's 60-40. I go back to the 98% consensus of the scientists, and you look at that, even if someone is ladder climbing on that platform, I'm going to cheer them up every rung of that ladder.
Because you want the message 100%.
Out there. Because if there was no fact to support it, then I'd be like, oh yeah. I actually think it's on the other side. And the other thing I tell people, I'm like, what if I'm wrong and you're right, or vice versa? Like, the downside risk of the climate scientists being wrong and not doing anything is way worse. And there's not a lot of money in special interests. Like, yeah, you have solar panel companies, whatever. But there's way more money in special interests on the other side of it, and with oil and everything else.
But my point is, whether it's on any side of the aisle, people use it and they weaponize it.
Totally.
Fear's a money-making thing. Anytime there's a tragedy, there's somebody licking their lips going, oh yeah, where am I going to make my money? Where's my bottom line?
I agree.
It sucks though, but it should be out there.
I agree.
We should be cautious.
I think if someone figures out a way to have renewable energy, they should be a trillionaire, in my opinion. They should make money off of it.
Oh, and they will.
It's a big problem, and if they want to social lotto climb or get advanced in politics on it, I'll vote for him.
Yeah.
I can only go with what I feel, and the sun feels like a fucking laser.
That's what I said to my friend the other day. I'm like, am I getting older and maybe just more aware of it than when I was a kid? Or
Oh,
did the summers
definitely.
feel way hotter?
That's a good point. I want to ask Vicky a question, because how long have you been a teacher for?
I have been with the school district for 23 years.
23 years. So that's a good amount of time to really get some research on behavioral patterns. When you first started teaching, do you see a difference in kids today in their attitude completely than when you first started?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that your age and your perspective changing, or did kids really change?
Well, since it's new teachers telling me the exact same thing, they're young, so it's not age. It's the way, and you know what? I don't really blame the children though.
Oh, I don't either. Oh, I blame their fucking parents. Sorry to swear so much, but I blame their parents. Oh gosh, I blame their parents.
And going back to the whole climate thing, when I was in school, we didn't have air conditioning. So, like, we ate.
Did you
in the
grow up in the
cafeteria.
1800s?
No, if you go back in the 70s, we did not have air
You
conditioning.
had jealousy
in school.
windows.
And so, like, the cafeteria, we just had big windows and we opened it. Well, our air conditioning was broken this week in our cafeteria. And, like, when I was little, we ate, we didn't sweat, whatever. We had kids walking out of the cafeteria this week with
Dripping.
dripping.
Oh yeah.
So don't tell me that like you said, the sun is freaking hotter than it was.
But you do think kids have changed, their attitudes have changed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do. I really do too, because I know I'm getting older, but I don't think I'm so old down the road that where I can't have both perspectives of, I mean, I'm around a lot of young people.
Right.
I really am. And Denny's is younger, Ariel's younger. I mean, to your point, I've asked young kids, like Suits on our show, he's 23 years old, and he even says, yeah, something is weird. People are changing. It's different.
But kids are always changing throughout history. It's just, I
Yes.
guess the question is it for the worst, right?
That's, I mean, I think I'm bringing it up because I do think it's for the
You do
worst.
think it is,
yeah,
yeah.
I think there's a bad attitude problem. I know
Well-
it sounds like get your ball off my lawn,
Right.
but I think for the first time, people who've work hard are now getting questioned. Like you're almost, it's a penalty to work hard now. It's weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't give them a consequence for their action. Like
Yeah.
all the behavior systems have to be positive. Well, when I was a regular classroom teacher, here's your reward. I'm not going to take away your recess, or I'm not going to give you extra homework or something like that. Nowadays, you can't take away their recess. You can't do anything to them whatsoever. So why would I not go in the cafeteria and act like I've completely lost my mind? Because there's absolutely no consequence
I do
for
think
that.
we're getting nerfed up. We're getting way too nerfed up.
I think we are getting nerfed up. I do, and I am kind of concerned about that.
We're getting so disconnected from who we really are. We're like, oh, hand sanitize this. Like, we're not like climbing trees. Like, we
We're
have.
on our iPhones. We are on technology. I love technology. I do. I know I talk shit about technology. I think it's great. It's done some great stuff. But with great power, it can fuck you up.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're probably going to have classes in school later, how to handle yourself on social media. I imagine they're going to have to
completely right.
rewrite
It's
the
like
curriculum.
learning how to drink alcohol. It's
Yeah.
responsibly. It's not becoming an addict, whether it's porn or it's alcohol or it's
We
pot
got-
or it's
we got everything.
It's your cell phone or it's Netflix. It's video games.
A
Go
friend
ahead.
of mine, she said, I don't know where she read it or whatever, but people are developing like this bone that's coming out in the back of their neck as we see. It's from having your.
no shit.
You're-
We're evolving into
We're
a
evolving.
weird.
We're creating.
everyone
We have
this
iPhone-
weird bone thing.
We have iPhone neck.
Yeah,
That's a real
exactly.
thing
Everybody-
now.
Everybody sit up straight. And I'm
Yeah, I
like,
know. It
oh,
makes
so,
everybody wanna move
so all I got to
around.
do is hold my phone up here instead, right? And then I won't get the bone.
Google's coming out with the contacts.
Yeah, I think there's a point where you can get a little too connected. I think we can disconnect a little
Listen,
bit.
Elon Musk, I'll bring it in as a video or an audio clip. Elon Musk is actually putting nanotechnology into your brain. Like your computer
Yeah,
board
we
is going to be in
talked.
your brain. Like it's absolutely
Oh, it's going to get
mind-blowing.
hacked.
I only
You're
bring
going to get drunk one night and send out embarrassing videos.
I only bring up the whole thing about the kids thing is only because I feel like I'm crazy sometimes and that I'm the one that's changing, whether it's my age or whatever. But I do notice there's a different feel to society that I did not have even 5 years ago.
You might be the opposite. You might not be changing, and that's the
So
problem.
you think that older
Damn, Denny's that mind bomb.
Well, I think each generation always thinks the next generation
Totally.
is doing it
I,
wrong.
I, I
Oh,
was,
agreed,
I was
agreed.
going to say I 100% agree with you, but I just to play devil's advocate. I was going to say exactly what Denny says. I think every generation looks back and looks at the next generation and
And I'm not talking about doing things more efficiently. I'm not even talking about technology. I'm talking about just an overall attitude.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm talking about. I want things to be more efficient.
Yeah.
I know I speak shit about technology, but we need technology. But I think it is changing us as humans, good or bad, time will tell.
Well, actually, that's a great segue into the next random fact here. This was a study done August of 2019. They found that remote workers are more productive than their in-office counterparts. According to a study, 59%, they said, more productive in a study just done. So you wonder if in the trend in the future is everybody works from home.
It's going that way. People, first of all, I think people hate bosses. I think if you have a chance to work for yourself, I think everybody would. And of course, people are making their houses into castles now.
Well, so this would be you work for a company, but remotely from your home.
Yeah.
That's the new trend.
it's the gig economy.
I think that's what we're moving into.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think that's a cool. So I kind of use that segue.
But I do think forcing yourself to get out of the house is a very necessary thing. And I think you can go the other way. If you're stuck in your house all the time working, that can lead to a very depressing life.
Yeah, and
I'm the kind of person that has to go to work.
I'm like Vicky.
Yeah, me too. But I'm old school.
If I stay in the house too long, I do get depressed.
Yeah, I lose productivity. whether it's studying or working from home, I'm not as productive at my house.
Well, you'll be at home like, all right, I'll get that paper done or I'll get that research done, but let me just go on Pornhub.
But so that's what the study.
Take a shower,
let me look up some
let me
furry
make
shit.
some food.
So the study accounted for all of that time used personally while working remotely, and they still found, and they're talking about just productivity, quality of work. They found to be better when people were left to their own devices.
Kevin's starting, I think,
To
from
think
the,
that
from
way.
the show. I think Kevin is trying to not work as hard to get more out, and I agree. I think you can. The whole grind it out, baby, till you can't keep your eyes open is not always a good thing.
Well, that's an old
Especially-
school style, too.
especially in a creative scenario.
Oh, and
Yeah.
creativity is a weird one because it's not. You don't go. I guess to use like a factory setting, you don't go and repeat the same actions over and over. Creativity, you have to cultivate. You have to find. You have to be in the right spot mentally.
Yeah.
It's why I think the creative positions are always so sought after because they're so tough to achieve. What's going to strike? Where's the lightning in the bottle?
And not everyone likes your shit either. I mean,
That's
if you're
true.
creative, you also have thick skin because if you don't, that can be depressing as well. Hey, here's my idea. It sucks.
Right. Yeah.
So things changing for the better. Another random fact for you guys. In 1907, French waiters went on strike for the right to have mustaches. In France, prior to 1907, mustaches were a symbol of class and stature, so waiters were not allowed to have them. They were seen as lower class and not mustache worthy.
Isn't that something? Mustache here in the States, modern day times. You have a mustache and you drive a van, you're a predator. I mean, you are a sex offender.
People died for that mustache, and now we don't even rock them.
We call people with mustaches creepy.
That's true.
See, I'm so basic. I'm going to give him an A for that one.
Well, that was just funny
I love
because
that one.
well, you think about it, that's just something where we've progressed, like to where it's like mustache is a sign of wealth. Like, what a random title or a random thing to put on the society.
You know why? Because it was more expensive to groom it.
For sure,
Right.
Absolutely.
So the bigger, more curly Q your mustache, it was more expensive.
More
But
kempt.
It's just so funny because a bunch of humans got together and said, all right, all of a sudden mustaches are going to be real, real classy, and that's going to be a sign of, and that's how it starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it starts.
Something that's blown my mind is one man prevented other people from shaving their face a certain way for the rest of history.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hitler.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
So no one can ever wear that mustache ever again.
Well, you have to say you're Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, I was to say Charlie Chaplin didn't help either.
But
that was
that-
before, right?
Charlie Chaplin was before,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, he was very... Charlie Chaplin, I didn't realize Charlie Chaplin, not to bore everyone with Charlie Chaplin, what a renaissance...
pretty relevant.
What a,
Go on, I want to hear this.
what a renaissance man. That guy did a lot of shit.
He did.
I saw a play about him, his life story. Like, that guy was amazing.
Oh, he did. He's
Absolutely amazing.
Tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Still having kids like what in his 70s or something?
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a freak like that, Becky.
Yeah. I'll throw one more at
No,
you
go
guys
for it.
here for random fact. And just in the trend of things changing, more than 60% of Japanese couples choose a Christian-style wedding, while less than 1% of Japanese residents are Christian. They subtract the religious bearings from the wedding. They just like the black tuxedo, white dress, and the thought of walking down a virgin path. There's actually now a popular creed amongst the modern Japanese. It says, born Shinto, live non-religious, wed Christian, die Buddhist.
So is wedding stuff always been about Christianity?
Well, the Christian wedding, for sure. With
Gotcha.
So, I mean, there's Jewish weddings. There's each ceremony
I'm
is...
talking about walking down the aisle.
So
And that's a Christian. That's based in a Christian belief.
Yeah, so in the Japanese culture, they have a different Shinto-style wedding. And so each, the Jewish have their own wedding style. Each, there's different customs of weddings.
That's it.
and
I didn't
such.
know that. Did you? I had no idea. I got to give you an A on that
I
one.
got an A, and I love that quote. that you
Yeah, it's
just
very
said.
cool. It's
How they
so
live.
the Japanese culture, and
What was the quote again?
it is born Shinto, live non-religious, wed Christian, die Buddhist. Is the quote.
Interesting.
That's
Love
their
that.
creed now. But yeah, isn't it weird? They subtract the religion aspect completely out of it. They just enjoy the American ceremony, or the Christian ceremony rather.
I love the receptions of weddings. That's my thing.
You're the guy doing the worm on the dance floor, aren't
I'm
you?
the guy that shouldn't be invited. 'Cause I upstage the bride.
That's great.
It's great, but not for the bride.
Did you guys want one more? Or are you good?
Yeah, give us one more, Denny's.
All right, so I only just because I want to push this one because I just
I
thought
can
it was,
tell you're kind of puffing your chest out with these facts today.
this one's just so random. So everybody everybody knows the Pythagorean Theorem, right?
Yeah.
The a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well,
Triangle.
so he was pretty prolific when it came to math back then. And I guess, I just never read into Pythagoras, and he has an incredibly crazy, all right, so listen to this. Pythagoras had a weird cult that lasted for centuries after his death. They worshipped numbers. They were the first to invent a robot, which was a steam-powered pigeon, and they were afraid of beans because they thought beans were from the same genus as humans, because if you put beans in the ground and then dig them up days later, they look like fetuses. So they were afraid of them. And also, if you ate them, their mind state was complete solitude. For when you joined their cult, you couldn't speak for 5 years to teach you how to listen.
Oh, that would be so tough for Virginia.
Oh, geez. But so they thought that humans and beans were similar, and if you ate beans, you were kind of eating people. And also, they didn't like the flatulence would disturb you while you slept. Was one of their
Sleep
big
farting.
Sleep farting. If somebody slept fart, they would get in trouble because you're not allowed to disturb. So people were terrified of beans in this cult.
Could you imagine legit getting in trouble for farting, or you're getting scolded?
Yeah, well,
your
so
sleep.
Pythagoras, he started this cult, and it became pretty big. Well, one of the big leaders of the time wanted to join this cult, and he was declined. So the guy got so mad that Pythagoras was chased. His whole cult was burnt, and they chased him to a field of beans, but he was so terrified to pass through it, he stood there while they beat him to death.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? The guy from the Pythagorean Theorem.
He got beat to death?
He got beat to death by a mob because he turned down the wealthy man to join his cult, and he was too afraid to run through the bean field.
Jeez.
Isn't that weird for
That
a
is-
squared plus b squared
Yeah.
equals c squared?
You did real
That's
good
right.
today, kid. You did real good.
Yes. A
So,
plus.
Look up Pythagoras. That guy was insane.
I do want to throw out the weird and whatever question of the day. Now, if you guys don't mind, if you're listening, please go ahead, give us your answer in the actual comment section of our YouTube video here, not in the chat room as everyone's right now. When the video is done, it'll populate, and then everyone will be able to comment on the comment section. We've gotten a lot of emails, and it's been a lot of talk in the media about video games, linking that to violent behavior. Here's the email from Joy. And this is one of many emails that I've gotten. There's been a lot of talk about video games contributing to much of the violence here in America, I guess even in the world. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I know Denny's is a big gamer. Thanks, Joy from Pembroke Pines. Denny's, I know we talk off the mic about this kind of stuff a lot. Go ahead and give me your philosophy on that.
On video games causing violent behavior?
Do you think video games are contributing to? I mean, there's all these shootings of people I know are saying that.
Absolutely.
And again, this is not my opinion. This is what I'm getting. That's why we're talking about this as a discussion. What are your thoughts on that? Is there any merit to that?
So I'd say anything that is violent that we see on the internet, movies, video games, music, everything can have a violent connotation to it. All of that stuff, I guess, could overall contribute to violent behavior. I mean, especially if in cinema they're glorifying violent behavior or in music and such. But do I think it causes violent behavior? I do not. I think everything could contribute to a person becoming violent, but I don't think it causes it.
So, your opinion, video games or a Quentin Tarantino movie alone does not make people turn into maniacs?
No,
think
I think it could contribute to a person becoming a maniac.
I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head. I think politicians, the media, they always look, pun intended, for a silver bullet to say, hey, it's either this, it's mental illness, or it's video games, or it's gun control, or whatever, and they want to pick one thing, right?
Yeah,
and it's never one thing.
So-
it's a confluence of events.
So I would like to have a very good point. I would like everyone to give me your opinion in our comment section. Vicky, are you okay with doing this? The comment we like the most, we can give them a free psychic reading over the phone?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I'll give them a whole 15-minute one.
That's awesome. So yeah, give us your feedback because we're trying to get our YouTube channel popping, and it looks so sad when there's one or two comments. We're asking y'all to get involved.
Making fun of my laugh.
Yeah, make fun of Beckett's laugh. Tell me I am terrible as a host. I don't care. I just want interaction.
What about second place person? Can they get a 15-minute sexting session with Beckett?
if they can last that long.
I love that. So this is going to be something we do every week now. I want to get the audience involved in our comment section after the video is done. And the question is, do you think video games, violent movies affect what's going on with a lot of these shootings, just violent behavior in general? I'd like to get Vicky your opinion on this.
I think, I personally think that a lot of it stems from hatred, prejudice, and being antisocial in general, and some kind of mental disorder.
Here's when I think things like that do affect somebody. I think it is coupled with isolation. I think people who tend to not fit in and they stay isolated, and they are going down a road of nothing but negative thinking. If you're putting bullshit in your head and you are at a low point in your life and you don't have anyone to bring you up, and you're also awkward because your mom and dad might have not always been there for you, or they've let you do whatever you want. I think all of that coupled with violence that can,
Absolutely.
like Denny's is saying, can be part of the syllabus. Do I think you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie and you go kill? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Why would,
Absolutely not.
Listen, you know me, I'm an animal lover. I'm a big science person, big environmentalist. But, we study frogs in the freaking Amazon, and we don't seem to put the Harvard researchers on mass shootings. Like, why am I hearing about that? Like, what are the reasons? Like, again, like whether just like the public at large talking about it, politicians, why don't people do like a real legitimate publicly funded research and let's publicize it? Maybe they exist, but I never heard of them. I think it's a big problem. You look in Japan, they're known for their violent video games. They don't have mass shootings like we do.
Don't worry, if you're wrong about any of your factoids, somebody will let us know.
Well, that's interaction.
That is interaction.
But I think you hit it right on the head. If you look at the one common denominator is that they don't have a support system of friends or family that is a constant influence in their life. These are loners.
If you look at a lot of these, I'm not saying every case is like this, but if you really dig deep into their manifesto, these are people who a lot of times don't feel they feel inadequate with whoever they're attracted to, whether they are straight, gay, whoever their person is. If they're not connecting with that and they are going deeper and deeper into isolation, look at a lot of these people and read what they say, because a lot of them, it always stems back to, fuck these girls, no one will give me a chance, I'm alone. And I think if you create an environment where you are a loner, like you're talking about, and then you do nothing but put violence in your head, I think it can make you fucking weird.
Well, the other thing that's it's scary to think about, but they don't talk a lot about it, is another combinator is they're young white males. Like,
they talk about it.
Not always, but a lot of times, like, it's a young white male. Like, what's up with that too? A lot of times people don't like to talk about stereotypes, but usually they're stereotypes for a reason, and it's not PC. Whether it's a Muslim thing or situation, but Muslims have been a greater rate of mass terror, just a fact. And I know, interaction in the chat room, but young white males have just by and large. I mean, the Orlando shooter wasn't white male, but like for the most part, these mass shootings are young white males, and I think that's another thing the research needs to go is like, why? Just like someone would be like, why is this subgroup or subculture getting more addicted to drugs or getting discriminated? We need to look at that. Why is this group or this subculture getting more involved in mass shootings?
Vicky, what are your thoughts on what Becca just said, and with all the hate emails we're about to get?
But I can piggyback on that. If you look at your serial killers, they were white males. Most of them primarily are white males. If you really wanted to kick up some talk in the chat room, discuss maybe if the first witness to one of these serial killers or one who survived, that they had said if it was a black male, would there have been more of a public outrage and more of people up in arms to find this person? I wonder.
So go on with that point.
I just wonder whether they get away with it a little bit longer because it's just people aren't as outraged at first because you're not bringing in prejudice.
Are you saying when it comes to a white murderer? Is that what you're saying? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you're not bringing in the outrage. You're not bringing in prejudice, which makes people, jump up. Oh, I'll go search and I'll go find them.
What are your thoughts on all this, Denny? You're awfully quiet over there.
No, I'm just soaking it all in.
What are your thoughts, though?
Just on.
Just what Beck and Vicky, what we're all
Yeah,
saying.
I think there's definitely validity to what everybody's saying here.
See, the problem is, go ahead.
Well, there's just, as with everything, there's so many variables.
There's so many variables about everything.
So what's weird is what has been picked and chose, I guess, to your guys' points, to be highlighted in the news. So that's where a lot of these news sources are being split into categories, I guess you could say, where these people are this, or these people are thisist and thatist.
Yes.
And there's all these ones, but it's just because they're picking what they're choosing to tell you from the news. It's ultimately, if you look at the story, there's that classic case where the guy goes on the witness stand, tells his side of the story. The girl goes on the witness stand, tells her side of the story. Then the third person comes in, and it's a marriage of both stories being the truth. So, really, if you look down at anything, you could find the truth in it. And I think a lot of it is just people are shitty no matter what, creed, nationality, race, whatever it be.
People are...
and it's just chosen to what's highlighted in the news to who is doing what.
Humans are flawed.
People are so shitty, but I do think that you can look at non-subjective, objective measures and say most mass shootings are males, and there's just not a lot of females.
No,
shooting.
that's
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
definitely something that, and I think people are looking at that. I don't think it's a secret that it is a lot of men shooting.
Well,
I think what people they're fighting about why it's happening.
Right.
And everyone's got a fucking opinion about it.
Everybody's just trying to figure out why. So what it seems like each one gets highlighted. So at this time, it's this type of case that's happening, and you'll see a lot of these types of cases popping up. A year later, because of the internet moving so fast, now it's this type of case being highlighted. It's just picking and choosing what they're highlighting.
Doesn't it seem frustrating that it feels like there's paralysis by analysis, though, in the sense that it just then nothing gets done? And then it just keeps happening.
Well, it just gets talked about. That's what my big knock against everything is that we have shows that just talk about all the problems, and then we have shows talking about them talking about the problems.
Throw
and
a
then people
hashtag
argue,
behind it.
and then on the internet, people are arguing about the problems that they're talking about. But nobody,
Right.
there's probably a core group of 10
good point.
scientists actually doing something about
It's
it.
called distractions.
But
my
that's what
man.
I'm saying.
That's
But
a good point.
they're mad as hell about it, and then 2 weeks later, there's a new thing that they're mad as hell, and they're not. They're kind of
Well,
mad about the thing before.
Look at the news cycle. Look how it all goes. There's times where all of a sudden every news source is reporting on #MeToo. Everyone's talking, and then all of a sudden it goes bye-bye, and there's a new thing everyone's pissed off about. And then another movement comes, and then #MeToo comes back. Or sexism, they highlight that. It seems like the media is driving what people are thinking.
They're
Well,
feeding our
absolutely.
addiction. They're feeding our addiction.
Again,
right?
we just gotta learn self-control. You gotta learn how to
Turn it off.
How to accept. You can still watch and accept it. Just don't let it affect you so either profoundly.
I would love
or-
to see a show that only has positive news. Let's see I would love to see what the
I've
ratings
said that
were.
before. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Kevin said that before too, and he's like, I don't know if they can get the ratings.
But I would love to. That would be a great experiment to only do positive news and to see what the ratings are actually like.
For sure.
But the first journalism class I took at FAU, it was at Broward Community College. The first thing I learned was if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
Telling you no matter what the fuck's going on, if someone's dying and there's blood and we're reporting on that's going to be our top story because it's all about ratings. It's about ratings.
It just sucks the ratings because otherwise they would just tell news. It didn't matter the ratings. It would just be what the news was.
I mean, we want to be entertained.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. We do want to be
We
entertained.
do.
And
Because
now
then-
we want it even more.
Oh, we'll bitch about the news being boring. I mean, that's what will end up happening.
Yeah, I remember, man. People used to complain about how boring the news was or how boring politics were.
C-SPAN. Remember
It ain't
C-SPAN?
boring.
Well, we definitely uncovered a lot today. Got a little controversial. I like that. We need to get a little bit more controversial on this podcast. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from everybody on any of the topics. But to just reiterate that whole thing, I really do think when it comes to a lot of the violence out there is lack of love, loneliness, and isolation, I think can...
Get some sunlight. Not too much, though. It's hot.
I think that can turn somebody into a weirdo. I do.
I agree.
And not the good kind of weirdo. Not like the weirdos we are. Real quick, let's end on a fun note. Let's do a couple Would You Rathers.
Yes.
Let me find them first. Beckett Stretch, read your latest sex message. I got him. Okay. Would you rather...
I thought I'm stretching, too.
Would you rather always lie to everyone or always have everyone lie to you? So your daughter talks to you and she's lying, or you talk to your daughter and you're lying. Damn you, mom.
I'm not a very good liar. That's the problem. But I guess if I always did it, I'd become really good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather do the lying than people lie to me.
Me too, because I rather control it.
Okay. Interesting. Denny's?
I just have them lie to me.
I'd have him lie to me too.
Really?
Yeah, make it good. I don't care if you lie to me.
Yeah.
Just don't let me know you're lying.
Yeah,
'Cause
just
then
be
I don't
good
know.
at it.
If you're, the people that annoy me are the people that lie to me and are throwing bullshit at me, and I can see through it. I'm like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, you're doing a game I do. No, stop that.
I see what you're
Would it-
doing.
I see your game.
Would it change your mind? It'd be one thing if they're lying to you about good stuff, right? Like, oh, like I really like the color of your new hair. That or lies when you actually did something awesome, and Kevin was like, that was a real shitty bit, but he loved
I think
it.
you did that last night. No, it's a devil's advocate kind of question because I think you're screwed either way. But I think I would rather have people lie to me and me not know it.
Yeah, me too.
Go on. Ignorance is bliss, man.
It is. You just live.
Would you rather make murder legal for one night a year,
Like the purge.
like the purge? I mean, everything goes, baby. Or make bank robbery, mugging, and vandalism legal for all time. So you go out to your car, there's some dude just spray paint in your car. You're like, what are you doing? Doing a fucking vandalizing. No, it's illegal. What do you pick?
I'd have to go with the one night of murder because for some reason I have such a violent reaction to anyone who destroys someone's property. Like,
Just murder him that night. That's all you have to do. Get mad.
it's
and then
only
murder
one
them.
night, and we can figure out how to keep everybody safe somewhere. But vandalism has always just really got my goat for some
So
reason.
I guess my next question is, Vicky, why do you love murder so much?
Because it's just a one night stand with the murder.
I hear you.
How would you handle a purge planet? Like we are a place that just has the purge. It's like just how it is.
Whiskey and tears.
Well, like what's your plan for purge night? It would probably make a holiday. It would be on social media. It'd be like,
Oh.
ready for the purge, you know?
There'd be advertisers. There'd
Yeah.
be sure I survived the purge.
I got the safest walls, you know?
Surge of the purge, baby. It would be a whole thing. We would make tons of money off of it.
Yeah,
All right. So what do you pick?
I do purge.
You do purge.
Yeah.
I will say vandalism and mugging.
it sucks
that
so
would just
bad.
turn everything into just lawlessness. I think I got to go murder as well.
Yeah.
But anybody and everybody could get murdered on the purge night.
It's one night.
Damn, Vicky. Education system made you cold.
You just said you agreed with me.
Vicky kind of sounds excited about purge.
Yeah, Vicky does sound
I
excited.
consider it a challenge. I'm gonna not get murdered.
What area?
Can you only murder one person or multiple?
Oh,
Oh, it's a 24-hour period.
Free for all.
Of just whatever, just like the movie. You can do whatever the shit you want. Murder's legal. You can murder anybody.
I think purge was anarchy, yeah, complete anarchy. So is it just murder's legal? You can't rob people. and
Just
stuff?
murder.
Yeah,
that's
all
it.
right, yeah,
Just
that
murder.
makes it
We're
better.
gonna change it.
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit.
better.
Yeah, I don't want to make that goofy question goofier. Danny. Last question.
Wait, you want to hear what I said?
Answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. We're running a little late. Go on.
I'll go with vandalism.
Really?
Vandalism.
Yeah, because you just can't have nice things. Fine.
Robbing, mugging.
Yeah.
So you and your girl are out at a nice.
But I can carry a gun. Doesn't mean I can't murder him because he's trying to mug me.
You guys go to Paris.
Yeah, I guess you can still follow the laws. And
Yeah, I'd still defend myself.
But you can't control all of that. Literally, every time you go out to your car,
It's like the Wild West.
People are pissing on it. They're spray painting.
The problem I have with murder is I don't know how many people can die. Like she said, it's not like a 1-for-1 per se. Like Putin can just be like, oh, nuke. It's on the purge day.
For this game, no nukes allowed. It's got to be
Hands.
old school murder style.
You gotta see
baby.
the white of their
You gotta
eyes.
do the work back
Yeah,
here.
you got to put the work in.
Yeah, I think I'm still going vandalism.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Very
And a
interesting.
robber guy, it's kind of like the good old days with the mobsters and everything like that. Then it'd just be like old cops and robbers.
The good old days when people just kill people for no reason.
Like
The good
Capone.
old days. That's all I got. Oh no, I had one more. It was kind of a sex one. It's a little weird. Beckett, you'll probably like it. Would you rather, for the rest of your life, only have sex with a donkey? That's all you can ever have sex with. Or you have to at least once a day only eat. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm messing up this question. Only have sex with a donkey for the rest of your life, and you have to do it once a day. You have to do it once a day, so it's in your daily routine. Or only eat cat poop for the rest of your life. That's all you can ever eat.
And you're allowed to have as much sex as you want on if you're eating cat poop with not a donkey?
You will only eat cat poop, but you can have sex with whoever you want, Becky.
Can you prepare the cat poop however you want?
Absolutely not.
Cat poop.
Cat food. That would be so. I'd love to eat, man. That would be
Not as
rough.
much as I love sex.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah, even if you wanted to do it by yourself, if you got the urge to want to play with yourself, you have to have sex with a donkey. I mean, that's in the rules. You have to have sex with a donkey once a day.
Yeah, no. I'm going with poop.
Yeah. He's like, already.
It's me and Eeyore. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I am not eating cat poop.
Thanks for noticing. Denny's?
Yeah, I would do the donkey.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
I think I got to do the that poor donkey. Yeah. And don't be sending me no emails about if you're a donkey lover. 'Cause
Donkey
I
punch.
don't give a shit.
Fine piece of ass.
5 piece of ass.
We're just having some fun here. Well, guys, thank you for listening
Just
to Weird Whatever.
everything.
Yeah, thank you for everything. Yeah.
Being here.
My brain broke. Thank you for what am I saying? If you guys please don't forget, leave your comments down. The video will be up probably in the next hour or so, where you'll be able to do that. Anybody have anything to plug?
I do want to mention one thing. If someone's listening to us live today, it's the 24th. There is a concert to benefit Tim Yancey and his family today at Unity of the Palm Beaches. It's from 4:30 to 6:30, and it's a love donation.
I love it. That's good stuff. Beckett,
Nothing to plug.
Ariel,
Like the video below.
like the video below. That's why she's our producer. Yes, please
awesome.
like it, share it. We want to get this weird movement going. Denny's.
We'll be at Bamboozled later.
We will be-
downtown Clematis.
Bamboo, yes, we will be there about 2 o'clock downtown. If you see me and Denny's, just give us a hug.
Yeah.
2 to what time?
Oh, I think it's like 2 to 7.
2 to midnight.
Do you know it's at 7?
Well,
No.
so all right, so it starts off with us. We all hang out, and then we do the scavenger hunt, and then we meet up on the rooftop, and then we give out awards. So it's probably about 4.5 hours.
Because the UFUM game's tonight, too.
I
Big
know.
crowd.
Oh, yeah. Also, too, I want to make a programming note. This will be our last Saturday doing the Weird Whatever podcast. I know that some people like it, some people hate it. We're going to go back to Wednesday nights. We're going to take a week off to get our bearings. We're also going to try to put some videos up on social media. I know you have don't you have a ghost thing tonight?
Yes, I have an investigation tonight. So I actually have our Weird and Whatever audience member who's usually here. She's actually going to
Audience.
join me.
Brittany, she's one of our producers. She's
Yes.
our assistant producer.
So she is going to be joining me tonight on the investigation.
Awesome.
And,
Awesome.
you know, that's another thing, too. If anybody is interested in being part of the team, just send me an email at contact@pointparanormal.com. Also, if anybody's really into the paranormal and they want to hear me pontificate for 2 hours, if you go on my Readings by Vicky or my Point Paranormal Facebook page, I was a guest on the Necromancer live show this past week. So there's 2 hours of 100% paranormal talk with me on there. I have the links on my pages.
No, that's not.
I mentioned Weird and
I'm
Whatever.
kidding. You should be on every microphone that's out there. Well, thank you guys. We love you all, and Bigfoot is real.
What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens? Well, you should be. Because aliens want to probe around in your booty. Aliens are here to take our resources, steal our water and eat all of our horses. Aliens are nothing like the movie E.T. The movie Independence Day is how it will be. To all the victims who have been kidnapped, Snack Pack dedicates this track. What was that? What? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.